Do you love crocheted squares but hate joining them for bigger projects? What you need is a continuous pattern. With repeatable rounds, you can make your squares any size you like. Today I'm ranking my 10 favorite repeatable square patterns. I will count down from 10 to number 1. So it's one thing to rank a pattern, but when you're choosing one for a larger project, you might have different criteria to look at. At least I do when I pick mine. So for each pattern, I will rate them and talk a little bit about time. So how fast does it build and does it have any complicated stitches or placement? Yarn usage, is it an eater or a saver? This will mostly be compared to a classic granny square. I also focus a little bit on whether or not this is mindless or you need to pay a lot of attention. I'll talk about memory, so do you need to bring your note with you every time you're making this pattern or can you remember it by heart? And then we'll talk about colors, 1 color, 2 color, multiple colors. I think I'm going to assign them with, let's say 1 to 5, and let's see how that works. I have made tutorials for all the patterns that are on my list today, and I will link them below in the description. I have the first square on my list is this granny grid square. It looks very similar to the classic granny square, but it has a more mess-like look, and it'll become even more obvious when you make it even bigger. It uses less yarn than the classic granny square. It uses less time as well, because we have fewer stitches. You can pretty much do this and watch TV at the same time, and it's very easy to remember. It's the same thing on each round. For colors, you can go with multiple colors. I think that looks great, but you can of course also just, this one I just have 2 colors alternated between them for each round. I actually also have one that's 1 colored and this one where I also did the color changes. I think it works great in 1 color as well. And again, when you work your way out and get a larger project, the mesh design will become more clear. Number 9 on the list is the puff stitch square. I think this is one of the most decorative squares, and I really like it, but it does have puff stitches, and puff stitches does take longer to make. It uses more yarn. You need to pay more attention. That's just the way it is with the puff stitches. But once you get the hang of the puff stitches, they're actually kind of fun. I personally think they're kind of fun to make, and once in a while I grab a project that uses puff stitches because it gives this really nice height and depth to the project, and I actually do think they're quite fun to make. You do need to pay attention, and it's only a 2-round repeat actually. Well, this one is a 3-round repeat because I did put in a V-stitch round, but you can make it as an only 2-round repeat. Actually, the other one I have is only a 2-round repeat. As you can see, we don't have the V-stitch, so the V-stitch round is the purple round. And I don't have 2 rounds between the puff stitches on this one. And that leads to the color choices. Looks great in multiple colors, but you can also make it in 2 colors. And I think because of the puff stitch and the way that works, and it gives it so much structure and makes it special, you can actually easily get away with only making it in 2 colors, maybe even just 1 color. Number 8 on the list is the block stitch square. The block stitch is a very common stitch to use in crochet, and it's really about having 2 different sets of stitches on each round and then alternating between them to create this really, really nice pattern. I wasn't sure if I wanted the square on the list, but 2 reasons. One, it's almost the most dense one I think I can make, and sometimes you need that. And secondly, you can change up the stitches. So you can, I think I have double crochets and single crochets on this one. You could have gone with trebles combined with half doubles or half doubles and singles. That is really for you to play around with. Uses a lot of yarn, uses a lot of time because, well, you have this round with stitches that are not as tall as the other ones, and you have chains, so that does slow the project down a little bit. Again, very dense project, a lot of yarn. It's only a 2-round repeat, but because you are crocheting in chains and you need to place your, well, single crochets in this case, you need to focus a little bit on the project when you're working it. And you also need, I can't remember this one by heart because I can't remember, well, how many chains and how is it that I combine the stitches and things like that. So I kind of need my notes when I am doing this one. But this one is done in multiple colors. I have the same color for the lower rounds and then changing colors for the double crochet rounds. I also have these two. They are made in only one color, as you can see. That works great as well because you do get that little effect. It does not work in one color because that will not make the stitches pop at all. I also made some samples that are done with different kind of stitches. So I have these smaller ones as well. So this one is extremely dense. It's half double crochets and single crochets, making it really, really full. But that could be nice as well sometime. And also the smaller ones just with the contrast. Number 7 on the list is the V-stitch square. So the V-stitch is a very classic stitch in crocheting, and here it is done in the round to create squares. It works very nicely for squares, and you can really build it as big as you like. It's very, very great for big projects. It's a little. I think it's a little faster than the classic granny square because we have the V stitches, which also means it uses a little less yarn. So that is nice as well. It's one round repeat. It's so easy to remember. I can watch TV and make this at the same time, no problem. And it's also very easy to remember because it's this one round repeat, and you don't really have to do anything special at all. It works great in multiple colors, but if you don't feel like doing the color changes, it actually works very nicely as well in one color. Number 6 on the list is this flower bud square. So as you can see, it kind of creates this illusion of little flower buds. At least I think it does. It's a very dense square. It does take longer time to make because we are doing picots to create those little tops, which means it also uses more yarn. You need to pay attention when you do picots. At least I do. So I think, yeah, this is not one where I can't watch TV when I'm doing this one. But it's only a 2 round repeat, so the pattern is actually fairly easy to remember. You just need to know where to place your stitches. This one is made with a color change for every round. So the white one, so that is the kind of background round, if you can say it like that, is done in this contrast white color, and then you have the little colored tops. You can also do it the other way around. So I have this one where the tops are done in the white color and the other rounds are done in colors. So that of course makes the colors pop out way more. You can also do it in 2 colors if you prefer that. So this one, I have the orange one being the background and then the yellow ones being all the tops. Number 5 on the list is this textured square. It is very similar to a classic granny square when you build it, but as you can see, because we're doing front post stitches, which is very easy to make, it gives it this kind of 3D effect, which I find very, very cool. It does take a little longer to make than the classic because we have to place those front post stitches. Also takes a little more yarn because those stitches are longer. You can, again, it's clusters, so it's fairly easy to do, but you have to pay attention to where you place your stitches. So do be aware of that. This pattern is a 1 round repeat only, so you're doing the same thing all the way through, which makes it very easy to remember. Just maybe you need your notes when you get started, but other than that, I think you can just continue with it. When it comes to colors, well, this is a multicolored one, and I really like this one, but I also have a lot of other squares here. So these are smaller ones, which is really not the point of today's video, but I just want to show you what that looks like if you make them like this and do the color changes this way. I think it's very cool as well. But I actually have 3 different ones here that are done in only 2 colors. So we have the bigger blue one here. So this one I have 2 rounds of one color and then a color change and 2 rounds. And then you get this effect, which I think is just awesome. Also done one here in pink. That's not as big as the other one, but still you get the point. And for this one, I also have only 2 colors, but instead of changing between each round, I did the color changes like half and half. So that gives this effect, which is really cool as well. So I think this is a great square when working in only 2 colors. We only have 4 squares left. So what do you think so far? Are you excited to see if your favorite square is on the list? Let's find out. This is square number 4 on my list, and you might actually be thinking, well, now finally the classic granny square is here. But that's not quite true. This is a classic granny square that I made, so as you can see. This one is a spike stitch square. So it looks very similar to the classic granny square, but as you can see, it's more dense because I'm using the spike stitches. But that is really not why I love this square. The reason comes here. As you can see, because of the spike stitches, we can create this awesome effect. So if you pay attention to the white stripes, they look like they're like cornered somehow. I have an even better example here. Let me bring that out. White and pink. I love this one. This is gorgeous. I mean, it has a lot of similarities to the textured granny square because we are using granny square clusters. We just have one little change to one of the stitches, and that is how we create this. You need to pay a little bit of attention to this because when you are attaching to a cluster 2 rounds below, it does tend to, pop out a little bit. So you might have to end up blocking it or at least pay a lot of attention. It's the same characteristics as the textured one, so a little more slow to do, takes a little more yarn. You need to pay a little more attention, but it can easily be remembered. And as you can see here, you can do multicolors, you can do 2 colors, doesn't really matter. It's up to you and your preferences. And as you can see, this works beautifully as a bigger square for a bigger project. The number 3 on the list is the Pop Petal Square. Whenever I need to do or I want to make something that kind of has that granny square classic look, but I want it to be more dense, I use this one. So as you can see, we're filling out all the gaps all the way around. The cluster rounds are really easy. The tops does take a little bit longer to make. So you can see you're sitting up here. And it also uses a lot more yarn because, again, this is a dense square, so it takes more yarn. That's just the way it is. You do need to pay quite a lot of focus or attention to this project when you're doing it because you need to place the stitches at the top in various places. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy to remember and you don't have to have notes next to you. I think, at least I don't. But getting started, that requires a little bit of, freshening up my memory on how to do this. It's gorgeous in multiple colors, as you can see right here. But I also have one I made in just 2 colors, as you can see here. I also have another multiple one. But for this one, I did 2 rounds in each color. And for this one, I changed between every round. I don't need to do that to get the pattern to pop. I actually also made this one, which I really like. Also only 2 colors. But as you can see, there's quite a difference between these 2. Because for this one, the pink and blue one, I had the same color for 2 rounds and then I changed over. For this one, I started with the black for only 1 round, then 2 rounds of white, 1 black, 2 white, and so on. So that gives quite a different look if you place your colors like that. I'm kind of curious to know what you think about my color choices for these squares. I am thinking about creating a video about how I choose my colors and maybe throw in some tips and tricks on how you can choose yours as well. So let me know in the comments if you would like to know a little bit more about how I choose my colors. Number 2 on my list is the Magic Square. I think it's just beautiful, lovely, decorative. It works so well in a larger size. It looks way more complicated than it is. And I wasn't actually really sure if this was my number 1, but I think I'm okay with it being my number 2. It does take some time to make. You are going to repeat over 3 rounds. So we have these white rounds. We're going down, grabbing some stitches, some rounds below, and then we have 2 rounds of double crochet clusters. It uses a lot of yarn because it's so dense and everything is really filled out. So this is really good for something where you don't want any holes in your project. It's a 3 round repeat, but it's actually quite easy to remember once you get started. But you do need to focus and see where you place your stitches. And you can pick it up after a few days and remember what you're doing. But if you're starting a new project or you have put it away for a longer period of time, I think you'll need your notes. At least I do. But it's fairly easy to see what you're doing. So this is a multicolored version. It takes a lot of yarn changing, a lot of ends to weave in, but I think it's worth it. But if that is not really your thing, I did promise that we would have at least no joinings for these patterns, but this one actually also works really well in just 2 colors. So I have one here in pink and white, and as you can see, the pattern is really popping out even though it's only 2 colors. So you can easily do that as well. I also have one here where I tried some different colors. So this one is kind of closed because I did put a single crochet round to kind of finish it off. But again, you can build it as big as you want. Number 1 on my list, the shell stitch square. When I look at this square, I have no doubt that this is my favorite one. I love everything about this pattern. I think it is so beautiful, so pretty. And the cool thing is that it's not very complicated. It's only a 2-round repeat, so you can learn how to make it very easily. And you can change the look of this square quite a lot when you switch your colors around. It does take time to build, but I think it's worth it. And it does use a lot of yarn, but I think it's worth it. And when it comes to focus, I don't mind paying attention to this square. Again, it's only 2-round repeat, so you can actually pick it up pretty easily and see what you're doing. But when I start a new one, I pick up my notes just to kind of familiarize myself with how this is built. And as I mentioned, you can really play around with the colors. So here, the shells are made in different colors, and I have a contrast color between with the V-stitches and the chains. That creates a really nice look. Let's put them over to the side. I also have one here where I kind of did the same thing, just not a contrast, but 2 adjacent colors. It works very nicely with just 2 colors as well. But the really cool thing is that if you don't change color between every round, but you use the same color for 2 rounds, you get this pattern. And I know they look extremely different, but it is the same pattern. It's just a matter of how often you do your color changes.